Okay, call this meeting to order. Our purpose, Thursday, February 8th, 9 o'clock. Our purpose this morning is to hear from the prosecuting attorney on the litigation fund update, and it wouldn't hurt, since we're taping these for the public, if you could take a couple sentences and explain what the litigation fund is, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, you bet. So the litigation fund is a fund that is monitored and organized by the Idaho Association of Counties within the state of Idaho. Each county has the ability to opt in and pay a portion of funds as part of their annual fees into the litigation fund. The majority of counties around the state pay into this fund, and as such are eligible to make application to the board that oversees the fund for reimbursement for expenses incurred in litigation by a county in defending its tax assessed values for properties which are challenged and appealed by taxpayers. The fund is accessed pretty infrequently. There may be 1 to 2 applications a year from various counties around the state for access to funds from IAC. The parameters for who is eligible or what types of claims are eligible is pretty limited. Essentially, it needs to be a tax appeal case that has a broad impact or implications for other jurisdictions around the state. So your typical run-of-the-mill residential property with a single owner isn't going to qualify. It's got to be some sort of a unique business property and or commercial property that would otherwise be likely to set some sort of precedent for the state. If you meet those narrow criteria, then a county who has been paying into the fund and is in good standing can apply to the board for approval for reimbursement for litigation expenses. The Silver Mountain tax appeal case was one of those cases. It fell a little bit outside of the criteria for the fund, but the board met and found that there was a justifiable exception, and that it really met the primary purpose or goal for the fund, and that the rulings which would come out of that case would impact all of the counties around the state. And as such, they agreed to provide assistance for litigation reimbursement to the county. The county has applied now 3 times along the course of litigation and had previously received 2 separate payments for reimbursement. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any instance where a county has sought reimbursement more than once. And so that was also a question that came up here was, what do we want to do about this? Do we want to allow a county to come back if litigation's ongoing and to continue submitting requests for reimbursements? Or do we want them to make the one request up front and then we give them what they get and they can see how far they can get with the money? And so the board deliberated on that topic. And ultimately, I think Shoshone County presented a very compelling case as kind of our test subject to say, this is a good example of why we should allow a county who still has ongoing expenses for litigation to continue submitting for reimbursement as the case moves its way up the ladder, and then, as we saw in Silver Mountain, back down the ladder on remand. And so the board ultimately decided to give an affirmative recommendation to approve the reimbursement request from Shoshone County for the final expenses incurred. That amount was $49,240. How the reimbursement process works is the litigation fund has its own board that oversees the fund, and that makes the essential initial recommendation for reimbursement to approve it or deny it. Before any check is actually cut, the final approval has to come from the IAC Board of Directors. And the IAC Board of Directors only meets a couple times a year. One of those times was at the Midwinter Conference, which fell at the beginning of this month. And so I traveled down, Jerry White traveled down. We presented to the IAC Board of Directors on the 29th of January. I provided the constituency as a whole with an overview of the benefit that was derived from Shoshone County essentially pursuing that case to finality. And then I solicited through a good colleague of ours down in Nez Perce County, Dan Anderson. He's the county assessor in Nez Perce. I solicited his help and also presenting to the board from an unbiased perspective how this litigation is helpful to other counties around the state. And he got up, spoke in front of the board of directors, supported Shoshone in that endeavor, and ultimately the board voted unanimously to approve our request. So with all of that said, in the coming weeks, Shoshone County can anticipate receiving a check from IAC, the amount of $49,240, I believe is the amount.
Yeah.
And that will come back to Shoshone County as a reimbursement out of that fund for the expenses which had previously been incurred by the county.
And much appreciated.
You bet.
And appreciate you. So it was you and Jerry that did all the presenting for us?
Jerry was down there because he is actually on the board of directors, so he didn't get to do any talking. He had to recuse himself, but I think certainly his presence there and him being on the application gives the application credibility. So,
But that's our last reimbursement for this case.
it'll be settled. Correct.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Questions from the board?
You had some information. Was there certain guidelines that we have to abide by, or you were just?
It's designed to be a reimbursement back to the county, so I'll defer to our county clerk as to how those funds should be funneled back through. I am happy to dive in and help the clerk analyze any statute she thinks may be applicable, but I don't want to step into her field, so I'm going to defer to her when she gets that check. So.
Okay.
Anything else that you need to update us on with regards to this?
Not that I can think of.
Well, let me say again how much I appreciate on behalf of the taxpayers that you found $50,000 to come back into the budget. That's
You bet.
I
significant.
agree.
Significant and needed and appreciated. Okay. Anything further?
Nope.
Questions from the public?
Yeah, how much did it cost the defense fund overall to do so or not? Any ideas?
When you use the term defense fund, what do you mean?
The fund itself that we pay into, or we got money out of them for defending for pursuing Silver Mountain's tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
They paid for a bunch of it.
Correct.
Do we know how much that total was?
We do, yep.
Any-
I can check to see if I have it readily available here.
You're talking about the sum total of the payments they've given us?
What it cost the Idaho Defense Fund
Well,
to
Total reimbursements that you've gotten from that.
the Idaho Defense Fund has not put any money into this. The IAC Litigation Valuation Fund has provided assistance.
How much reimbursement from that one?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. What have we been reimbursed?
I don't have that number readily available in this packet that I have with me, but I think that that's certainly a number that our clerk can pull from those prior reimbursements, and if she can't identify it, I can reach back out to IAC, because the supervisor for the litigation defense fund, or the litigation valuation fund, will have a record of that. So I don't have that number with me.
And what do we pay into that fund every year? Any idea what the premium is or cost to pay in?
That would be a question once again for either our commissioners or our clerk. I don't know if you guys have that number. I don't pay
We
the
can look it
dues,
up.
but
Yeah, I have the top of my head, yeah.
I don't know that number. I do remember budget time we decided it was very good insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So That's what we decided, and it just got better. So, by 50,000. So, okay. Anything further?
I actually have a comment. You guys have been, actually everybody in the room except for Sydney, have been CC'd on emails back and forth for a public records request, and I'm asking that the commissioners have your grant administrator stop playing fiddly around, because these are documents that are asked for that should be. Some of them I was given in a previous public records request when all of this stuff started. But I sat in here in January of 2023 before two of you took office, and in like less than 15 minutes saw three people just throw $4 million at stuff. All things that were needed, but did not have documentation based off of the public records that I was given. Did not have a request form even set up. So at this point, I'm requesting to see from that start point to now, like some of these things have been ordered. There should be some type of record being kept and current and easily accessible if someone wants to say, hey, how much was spent on, or the process for getting all of the, let's say, the sanding trucks for the public works. There should be the request form, there should be the bids, there should be the this, showing how it's done. This is federal money. At some point it could be audited. I'm just doing a public records request through, Idaho's public code for public records. I don't know what it's called. I don't like getting emails of, please clarify this further, with the intent of being able to know what to charge me. I'm pretty sure that it would fall very easily under contributing significantly to the public's understanding of the operation and activities of this government. You have $4+ million that was given away. You have, there should be some very easy public records of how this money was given away and accounted for. And I would think I went the easy way with Idaho. This would be something that would fall under Freedom of Information Act too. You're dealing with federal money. If I'm correct, maybe that was just state money. It's the lettuce stuff you call. So anyway, I just would like for something you two especially, Tracy had not ran on transparency, and it should not be this difficult for a taxpayer to say, hey, the board assigned or awarded X amount or whatever. And I think it might also be beneficial because in going back through the minutes for this first $4 million, that's just all I'm speaking about now because I haven't had time to research anything else. The minutes of the county are, if I'm correct, the legal business of the, I'm looking at them, but legal business of the county. And, one of them, during that time frame when that money was approved, the motion for like the assessor's office, the motion was for a used vehicle for $36,000 was being awarded from the lettuce fund in that. But in the minutes, it lists out that the digital cameras are going to be $36,000 and the used vehicle is going to be $500. Granted, obviously the clerk at that time did not put the right amount in there, but these minutes were approved and are online now. And like I said, they contradict what the motion said to what was even in there. So I, as a taxpayer, whether it's you guys awarding the money, whether it's the federal government, they didn't have like a COVID tree that grew money. It came out of my pocket, the left side. I'd like to know why it's accounted for or how it's being accounted for.
Okay.
I'd be happy to
Yep.
talk with you afterwards and see what the holdup is and
Thank you.
carry it on. Okay. Anything further, Mr. Prosecutor?
Not from my side.
Okay. Board?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good.
We stand adjourned.